Hi, and welcome to my channel at the Pack in Maine. And tonight was supposed to be Wednesday Night Wags, but has shifted over into Thursday Night Thoughts. And the reason why we've had a day delay will become clear soon. But Wednesday Night Wags is a feature where I take some time to talk a little bit about what I've learned with my time living and working with a sanctuary of dogs who have come to Good Dogma by the Sea because of their difficult behavior has deemed them unadoptable. Most of the dogs in our pack were going to be euthanized if they had not found a safe place to live. So Good Dogma by the Sea was their safe place to live, and I've had the honor of living and working with them. I also train dogs with difficult behavior here in the small town of Perry, Maine. My original intention yesterday was to speak with you about the attributes that I find most useful when clients come to me or students come to me, what attributes that they might hold that I think, wow, this person's going to be really successful with their dog. The folks that I see go the farthest with their dogs in training, even if their dogs have really difficult behavior, they all seem to have some of these attributes. And that's what I was going to talk about yesterday. But things shifted, and I felt a real tug to talk about a different topic. And the topic I want to talk with you about tonight is what I consider to be one of the most overlooked requirements or responsibilities that we have pertaining to loving, responsible stewardship of our dogs. And this tug to talk about this topic came about a week and a half ago. I got a phone call from a former client who wanted to ask a question on behalf of a friend. And this friend has an elderly dog already kind of beginning the dying process, not eating, and has not been healthy for some time. And this person was feeling a lot of concern because this person is elderly and cannot imagine their life without a dog. And so they were kind of stressing and thinking about who's gonna let me adopt a dog or have a dog at my age once my current dog passes. And during this phone conversation, I tried to shift the question not to be about what's going to happen when this dog passes. Because in my mind, what was happening right now with his dog beginning the dying process, which it may be weeks, it may actually be months before his dog passes, but clearly the health of this dog is declining, and it's an elderly dog. And my feeling was now was not the time to think about a future dog. Although I do encourage and absolutely support folks who decide that they, as their dog starts to get older, they might decide to get a puppy or get a younger dog so that their older dog can help them train the new puppy. And also because they're thinking, I don't want to have a time when I lose my current dog and I will not have a dog in my life. For many people, that's incredibly important, and I absolutely support that. However, if your dog has started to really decline and may be feeling quite a bit of pain or listlessness or just wants to have more peace and quiet, that's, in my opinion, not the time to add another dog into your life, because one of, I think, your most responsible duties for loving pet stewardship is happening right now. And that is helping your dog through their own transition or dying process. I think that's one of the biggest gifts we can give our dogs, is preparing them and ourselves for their journey. And so this conversation that I had with this client was, I was really trying to help her understand that let's help your friend embrace, as hard as it is, embrace what's happening now, because they still have a lot they can do for the dog that they still have and the dog that they clearly love, because the thought of not having them in their life felt unendurable. And I'm sure we all know what that feels like if we have lost a beloved pet. And so that was kind of the conversation that I was having with this person, kind of sparked this thought that this is an important thing to talk about. The other reason why I wanted to talk about it is because I would say it's been about a month, I think, maybe a little over a month, that we got the diagnosis for our sweet senior, Odin, that he had bone cancer in his shoulder. I had been seeing him having trouble and losing his ability to go for long walks for a long time, months and months. But he would kind of have some instability or have pain for a few days, and then it would kind of go away. And so I was kind of thinking, okay, this is his senior time. He's having some arthritis, or he's, having just older dog pains. But in the back of my mind, I have seen dogs with bone cancer in the past, and it did occur to me that this might be what was happening to Odin. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about how I have moved through preparing Odin for his transition and preparing myself for not having Odin here anymore. There's such a wide range of how we can prepare ourselves and our dogs in thinking about the dying process. And it is so incredibly personal. How we feel about the dying process, whether it's for humans or for animals, is a culmination of our life experiences. And I have no business telling anyone that one way is good and another way is not. But what I can do is share with you what my leanings are, if for no other reason than to give you a talking point for your own thought process. Because here's what I do think is important. I think it's important that we prepare ourselves and make conscious decisions about what we want to do or how we want to see the process for our beloved companions. I think it's important to think about, as unpleasant as it is to think about, because I think it's a gift we can give our dogs. I think if we just ignore it because it's uncomfortable, it can sneak up on us, and then we are an emotional mess and can't really be there for our dogs. So I do think that it's important to think about, how do you envision the end of life care for your dog? So let's talk about a little bit of my basic thoughts about how I feel about end of life care for dogs. But I just want to be so clear. I am not saying that my thoughts are correct. They're just mine, and it's what I feel comfortable and what I can give my pack and my companion dogs. So again, it's just a starting off point so that you can maybe think about, what are your thoughts? So there's such a wide range of some folks who feel strongly that they would like to have nature take its course. They don't want to have any intervention when it comes to end of life care. They just want to be there and support their dogs as nature takes its course. And then there's the opposite end of the spectrum of, I don't want my dog to feel any pain. And so if I get a diagnosis that my dog has a particular illness that's going to end in death, and it may be painful, I may choose, as soon as that diagnosis comes in, I'm going to seek out a veterinarian or a caregiver who can help us euthanize my pet before they feel any pain. That's kind of the two ends of the spectrum. Of course, there are times when we lose our pets through trauma or an injury of some kind, or just unexpected. They seemed fine and then they're gone. And in those situations, we really can't prepare how their death is going to look or what we might provide for them. But again, I still think it's important to have your own thoughts or your conversations within your family about what the end of life of your pets mean to you and your family in your culture or your faith reference. What does it mean to you, and how can you support each other through those changes? For me personally, and I will say that I've had a lot of practice being with dogs at the end of their life, just because I've had so many dogs in my care. And so in many ways, I've been able to practice and refine what I think. But overall, my thoughts have not changed greatly. And so for me personally, I kind of look at the pain level for the dog. And I kind of think about it this way: the level of pain medication I might put my dog on. So for me personally, I kind of think about like doggy codeine is something that I feel okay about giving. So not that it's actually called codeine, but in the human realm, kind of that amount of intervention in terms of pain management. But if I were needing to go for the pet to be somewhat comfortable into kind of more of a morphine area for my pet, that's where I personally just kind of draw the line for me. That I don't want to go into really heavy sedation. And so if I can give them pain relief with kind of a moderate pain medication regime, that's where I feel comfortable. And if I feel like my dog is going into greater pain and needing much stronger pain management, that's where I would say I think it's time. For me and for this particular transition for Odin, as I saw Odin not being able to go for the long walks. So this started last year. We have several walks that we go on as a group, and one is 4 miles, one is 3, and we have several that are 2. And of course we can do little short walks too for dogs who can't do that. So I noticed last year that Odin could no longer do the 4-mile walk. Odin, very powerful dog, a very powerful, majestic, pack leader kind of dog. And it was hard to see him not be able to manage these long rambles where we would be on the beaches and he could swim. The dogs have an opportunity to get into the water, and we go up and down pretty steep incline and declines, and he could no longer do that. That's where I felt like a pretty big gut punch. The beauty of dogs, though, is that they don't bemoan their state. He couldn't do it. so we shortened the walks. I also started having Odin. We do have dogs who can pull a wagon here. And so dogs who can no longer do the long walks, if they can tolerate being in the wagon, then they can come with us on the long walks. And that's something that I think is kind of special, that the younger dogs who learn how to pull the wagon, we all pull them. We all pull them on these longer walks. Of course, we can't go down by the beach just because I haven't found a wagon yet that can handle our beaches. So, but they can do a good 3.5 mile jaunt with us inside the wagon where we're all pulling together. And I do find that kind of special and a way for them to continue to be active with us. For Odin in particular, the walk was important to me. It was important to me that he could continue to go with us on these journeys. He also adored being in the car. His original family, who loved him dearly, his original family, his dad would take him with him when he worked. And so I think his love for car rides was a connection to his original owner. Odin is a Cane Corse or Cane Corso, depending on how you pronounce it. They tend to really connect with one person in particular, and he very much connected with his original dad, and they went to work together, and I can just envision him putting his big old head on his dad's shoulder, because that was something he started doing with me while I would drive. That head would be right here. And so I allowed him to do that, particularly during this last year of his life. I would try to get him in that car every day. Any jaunt that I took, Odin was coming with me. About a month ago, I started to see more pain and him needing to keep off that shoulder, his paw. He was keeping that paw off the ground. And that's when we did go to the vet to kind of confirm what I was thinking might be going on. And indeed, we had an x-ray that showed cancer in his bone. I really like, even if I kind of think I know what might be going on, I like to have a vet take a look. And I think it helps me personally. If there's a diagnosis, then I can talk to the vet to say, okay, if they have a terminal illness, what does the end of life look like? What do they normally pass from? And can you talk to me about what pain levels are there during their passing? For me, the information is important for me to make decisions about where are they in this process and when do I want to intervene. And so it was important for me to hear, yes, we see this on the x-ray, and we know that bone cancer is quite painful. And so I knew that once he started going down this pain route where he was, it wasn't something that was going to go away. It wasn't something that he might have a bad week and then have a better week. This was now in the stage that the pain was going to continue to increase. And so that is when I kind of go on what I call pain watch, where I am observing to see, is he able to enjoy any activities? And indeed, one of his favorite things is to tear apart toys. So I did make sure that he had a wide variety of toys with squeakers that he could pull out. And I was not going to be concerned about the fluff going out every day, and because this was now kind of part of his daily enjoyment, was he would get some toys, tear them apart, take the stuffing out, take the squeaker out, and then he would be tired and need to rest. But he looked forward to having his daily basket of toys, tear them all apart, I'd put them back together, and the next day we'd do it over again. So, after he couldn't go, get up in the truck, I could help him get up into the car to go for rides, but he was no longer stable, so that he couldn't really look out the window. He couldn't really put his head on my shoulder. He was in the car, and I knew he kind of liked being in the car, but there was a lot of pain there because he wasn't able to feel very stable as the car moved. So as things started to drain away from his life that he could do comfortably, I started to just watch, what can he do? What does he find joy from? He also really always enjoyed sunbathing. And so I made sure that during this last month that he did spend quite a bit of time in my small apartment as opposed to in the sanctuary, so that he could have space to himself to find the sun puddles and to hang out. He slept a lot during the days, but that he could hang out in the sun puddles and enjoy that. But as that started to dwindle away, then I needed to, for myself, I needed to really watch, what is his pain level? And when do I feel like I need to intervene? And for Odin, it was yesterday of Wednesday night WAG night. I was seeing him feel restless at night, a dog who used to sleep through the night in one spot. We had a beautiful gift from one of my clients of an orthopedic dog bed, and I did find that for about 5 to 7 nights, he did sleep much longer through the night, and I thought this orthopedic dog bed was helping him. But bone cancer is tough, and as it goes into its more advanced stages, the pain of bone cancer is significant. And so although I think he got 5 to 7 better nights sleep, he started to become very restless at night. I would see panting, quite a bit of panting that was coming from stress, and I believe coming from pain. And so he had 2 nights that I felt like were substantially painful. And again, because I knew what the diagnosis was, I knew this is not something that was going to pass. So for me, I was able to make the decision to call my vet and say, I believe it's time to come in. And here's where having a consistent and good relationship with your vet is important, because it's important to me that my vet is going to accept that decision, that I think it's time, and that they trust me. If you don't go and see your vet on a regular basis, then they may feel it's their responsibility to make sure that this dog is actually in the process of dying before they would choose to euthanize a dog. And that's a hard thing. If you're trying to make the right decision, the best decision that you can, it's hard if somebody questions it. But if you don't have a regular relationship with a vet, they may very well feel it's their obligation to first have a good overall understanding of your dog's body, and they might question whether or not it's time or not. So this is another reason why you want to have a good relationship and an ongoing relationship with your vet, so that they can trust you that you are in making a good and informed decision when you say, I think it's time. There are so many options too out there. I do live in the country, in a pretty remote spot. And so things like dog doulas, which they have death doulas for pets now, I think they're probably more common in more populated areas. Also, there are definitely vets who will come to your home so that the euthanization can happen in your home. In my particular situation, I did bring Odin to the vet office. And of course, they're going to be more stimulated when they're going into a new environment. And so it can be hard because like you may see your dog at the end stages of life, and then you go to your vet, or even your vet comes to you, and the stimulation of the new person, it makes it look like your dog's perked up. But really what's probably happening is some adrenaline is going into the system, and you need to trust your gut. Trust your gut. And you've made this decision, and you're going to be with them. And don't panic. Is this the right time? Is this the right choice? Is this the right? We're never going to know. It's not black and white. There is no right moment. I will say this is something that I say to many of my clients, that I don't believe there's a right moment. And so for me, it is not so much the importance of when, it's how. And the how of the transition with your dog is not so much the vet care how, but it's how am I going to be with you in that process. And my goal with my dogs, and I feel it's quite an honor, to just be with them as they go into this transition that all living things have. We all have a beginning, a middle, and an end. From tiny plants to humans and everything in between. And so we all go through this transition. And so my goal with my pack is I want to be there with them as best I can. Even if something happens suddenly and it isn't something that I can plan, my goal is to just spend a moment. Say a dog passes in the middle of the night. I want to spend some moments thinking about what a wonderful dog you were. What wonderful attributes you had. What you brought to my life. You were a good being. You were a good soul, a good creature. I'm so glad I had time with you. I'm so glad all the people that met you got a chance to meet you. Taking a moment to be present with the essence of who this creature is. That is what I think the gift of being there for your dog at the end of their life. That's what I think that's about, is honoring the essence of who they are. And it's sad. It's sad. There's no way around that. One thing I try to remember is the sadness comes because of the great joy and love that was brought into your life by this creature. And had I not had that great joy and love and unconditionalness that these animals bring into our life, that is the amazing thing, is this unconditional acceptance and love that we get from these animals. That isn't it's not really replicated. It's not really replicated in our human interactions, because we as humans we're not as good at it. We're just not as good at it. And so I think that what I'm trying to say in this Thursday night thought is that a key part of being a good steward of your beloved dog or any pet that you have is preparing yourself so that you can be calm and present as best you can to help them in their transition at the end of their life. And so that's my little take, and I hope that maybe it gives you the opportunity to think and go ahead and feel all the feels, so that you're kind of prepared for what can come, whether it's coming in the next couple of days, the next couple of months, or if you have a puppy in the next dozen to 24 years, you know. And so tonight, I guess I just want to honor all the wonders of Good Dogma by the Sea and the pack that I have had for the last, since 2010 is when I started my pack. I'd like to honor all those who have gone on. And I will be honest with you, the dogs that have departed, I never feel like they go too far away. I just always feel like literally there's a picture of them, some of them behind me, but I always feel like they're just right here and they're cheering me on as I do my best, sometimes poorly, sometimes with success. And they continue on with that unconditional acceptance of who I am in this world at this time, doing the best that I can do. And so I never feel like they're too far away. And so now, as of yesterday, Odin is part of this presence right behind my shoulder, that they have my back. And I find that a beautiful and comforting thought. I hope you have a good week with your dog. Take care. Happy training.